Yes. So I've been reached out with many members of our community, um, emails, Facebook kind of things of concerns of the crosswalk and where it is, and also terms of our sidewalk and how narrow it is with our large population. It just doesn't make coming to and from school easy, and people are trying to find creative ways to get onto our campus that doesn't utilize the crosswalk and the skinny sidewalk, and that then involves students running across the street rather than going to our crosswalks, unfortunately. So trying to figure out a way to get things in place so that the way they're traveling works for the majority and gets them here safely.
Okay, and did your SRO want to add anything else, or the officer that's with you?
Yeah, what we've found is that controlling pedestrian traffic that's wanting to cross there in the middle of the block as opposed to go into the ends where the crosswalks are, with the current situation is virtually impossible. The crosswalk right there in front of the school would, especially if we get it manned by a crossing guard, would be a tremendous help and improve the safety of the children.
Okay.
Another piece to think about as well is we're getting close to having an additional phase of Waterley opening up. That phase is going to connect the Waterley community to us, which will bring a lot more pedestrian traffic. They're going to now be able to ride bikes and do other things that's going to get more pedestrians than we're used to here. Currently, we only have pedestrian traffic for Storybrooke, which is a minimal amount of our student population. The majority are all Waterley. So it's a problem that's coming up that we might be able to solve sooner than seeing the problem arise later.
Okay, and then I know that we've been in touch, Mr. Hendricks, and I know that you mentioned the parking issues.
Yeah, there's a small area, a strip of road that goes from Water Spring Boulevard, turns onto Oliver Twist Way. Right there before you get into the bus loop, there's no parking signs on one side of the street, but then the other side of the street they're allowed to park. But by doing so, there's only one lane for a bus to get out, and it's the wrong side of the street to be on. And they have other pedestrians other cars coming in, and they're kind of playing chicken with each other each day at dismissal and arrival to try to get who can get down that strip of street versus being able to be on their own side. So I don't know if we could do no parking on both sides of the street, just up until the point where you get to our bus loop from Water Spring Boulevard to our bus loop, so the buses can get in and out without having to fight traffic.
Okay, so the reason that we came together today for today's meeting is we really want to come together and just have this be a group effort, not just OC Public Works, but OCPS as well, and the Sheriff's Office, to just kind of try to come to some conclusions on what we can do to improve the area. But I just wanted to let you know, as far as Oliver Twist Way, we are working on adding additional no parking signs.
Okay.
On either side of the road. I know that a lot of parents park along the way, and it blocks the buses from coming in. So I just wanted to let you know that was in the works. I also
Perfect.
have Frank Yoko, which is on the phone call. And Frank, you want to kind of add a little bit more about the parking plan?
Yeah, we did some observations recently, last few weeks, and we did see the issues, egress to the school. It is kind of tight there, even with no parking on one side. So I think both sides would be good, but just keep in mind, we're going to push the problem farther into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an issue. I know Water Springs, I've been out there and on Water Springs Boulevard, and it does back up. People are parking on there, even though there's no parking signs on Water Springs. So we're just going to shift the problem somewhere else. But I think getting in and out of the school through that driveway is going to be needed to do both sides.
And then we're going to definitely need the Sheriff's Office there for enforcement once the signs are installed, because I know, as you know, many residents will start kind of ignoring the signage after a while. So if there's somebody out there to enforce the signage, that will be really helpful. One thing that I did want to bring up before Christopher Mills has to head out is the sidewalk. We have touched base with the sidewalk coordinator, and I know there's a lot of concerns from residents as far as the narrow crosswalk that's on the west side.
Yes.
And what we're suggesting, and Diane could probably speak about this as well, is for OCPS facilities to be able to extend the sidewalk on the west side on the school property.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something that you can look into.
So we're looking at moving the fence back possibly, and then adding an addition onto that sidewalk. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, that would be a request that we would have to send to OCPS facilities to look into.
Okay, and this is Christopher. Just to be clear, we're talking about widening the sidewalk.
Yes, right here.
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, there may be some room within the existing right of way. There are inlets along the way, but there may be a potential couple of feet within the right of way that where the sidewalk could be 2 or 3 feet that could be added to the existing 5-foot sidewalk to turn it into an 8-foot sidewalk, which will be also considered a multi-use path.
Right.
And that's just from Oliver, what's the name of the road?
I think it's Oliver Twist Way. I know what you're talking about.
From Oliver Twist Way all the way to the sidewalk along at the entrance to the school.
To the parking lot?
Yep.
Okay. And
So that is a possibility that it seems to be doable. I'm looking to see if there's any obstructions or anything that really it would impede that to happen in a very quick and way. I don't see that. And again, it could also be widened inside the property, the school property, of course, but there's got to be access to all the kids, so the fence will have to be relocated.
so at the so it looks like the parking lot, the northern corner closest to the sidewalk. Do you know the distance between that and the sidewalk? Do you see what I'm talking about? Where the conga line gets closest to a little bit further down to the northwest.
Okay. Like down here, you mean?
No, the other way. Right there, exactly.
Oh.
I mean, if we're widening in that area, are we gonna run into trouble with the I guess that's the parent loop right there?
Well, I thought that the widening would be totally from Oliver Twist to the sidewalk entering the school.
Yeah, it looks like
That portion.
Okay, so just halfway.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
their half. That half, not towards the west,
Okay.
northwest. Okay,
Okay.
it's just
Okay.
from Oliver Twist to that sidewalk that enters into the school,
Excellent. Okay.
And then,
which is where the kids are tending to go across.
That makes
The
sense.
yes, and that's,
The issue with
sorry, Joan.
the concern Orange County has on a mid-block crossing for those kids that are crossing or attempting to cross halfway is that we have a left turn lane with a storage, and the storage will be lost in about 13 vehicle storage will be lost if we do a crossing where the existing sidewalk into the school it's located today, that would really impact Water Springs Boulevard, and things will not going to be very good at the intersection with Oliver Twist, because that intersection will be impacted, and potentially Storytelling Way will be impacted as well, because people will line up all the way across those intersections, and then that will impede the buses to go in and out. So we need to be cognizant of what we have and what we impact when we try to move any of the crossings that the student crossings, the crosswalks. So I know that is a suggestion that was viewed favorable by the sheriff's office, but from our standpoint, that takes a storage capacity on our turn lane, which will push the traffic further away from the school.
So, and I know I'm not the expert on this, Diana, but I would say that knowing if the sheriffs have been out there and this is if their suggestions are based on what they're observing in the safety of the children, the convenience of the automotive public isn't the priority here. So I just want to say, as the commissioner, I support whatever their observations are. If what is determined to be the most safe thing to get the kids in and out of school, cars can wait.
My point would be that they're crossing there anyway. Unless I'm standing out there, they're crossing there. We're just trying to design a way that they can cross safely. The traffic backs up from the front of the school
Down to
all the way
Avalon.
down to Avalon Road.
So it won't change anyway.
It's not gonna have much of an adverse effect to actually stop them for a few seconds to let the kids cross safely. Currently, there's just a few dozen kids. The problem is that as the area grows, the number of kids and parents wanting to cross there is going to increase. I also agree that a lot of what we're doing is addressing the symptoms without addressing the disease. The problem is all based from the fact that the parents that are parking along Oliver Twist, parking across the road in the subdivision, are all trying to avoid the 45-minute drop-off and pickup lines. So, but as long as we've got an 1,300 student population, I don't know how to correct that problem.
Well, the school is overcrowded as it is. I mean, it's designed to have 830 students, and it has over 1,000 students.
We're about 1,300.
And that you're going to find. I mean, I expect that in August, when the other school that is underway now on Sidedale takes away some of the students, and this goes back to normal, to the capacity it was designed for, these issues are going to go back to normal. We coordinated with OCPS very closely, all the crossings, the student crossings, so that we could balance students and vehicles. And I mean, me as a parent, it's irresponsible for a parent to drop off a child in the middle where there's no crossing or crossing guards. We're working with OCPS, with the sheriff's office also, to put a crossing guard at Oliver and Water Springs Boulevard, which will assist the kids and won't allow the kids to go any further once they get to that point, so that they can go to the right side of the street and cross and get safely to schools. So, I mean, we coordinated this very closely with OCPS, and this was what it was all agreed upon for now, trying to do a mid-block crossing and affect the capacity of our left turn lane, which will come back and on us later on, because it's going to affect as the students get at least separated. I expect these to improve. If it's overcrowded, you're going to find all kinds of issues, traffic issues, when the school is overcrowded. But hopefully in August, that will change, because you are going to redistrict these schools, and hopefully this school will stay only with the at capacity or even below capacity, because you're opening another one just a few couple miles from the school. And
Joan,
correct me
unfortunately,
if
that's
I'm
not.
wrong, but that's
Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. We got our projections for next year. I'm opening next year at 1,100 with the 2 relief schools. So I'm losing a few hundred students, but I'll be at 1,100 next year, and I need additional portables added onto our property in addition to my 17 I currently have. So we're growing. Then we have a whole nother year that we're going to still be growing while Water Spring Middle School opens up right next to us in 2023, 24. I'll be probably about 1,400 or 1,500 students that year.
And with the Waterley expansion, we're going to have more and more kids walking. The walking.
And that should, these are infield schools, and that's what they were put in the place they were by the developers, because they were supposed to be infield schools that would support the community, and that the kids were going to be able to walk and bike to school, not to be driven to school. So that's another education. I always say we're not educating our parents to do the right thing, because I would not drop off a kid, one of my kids, in the middle of a street where there's no designated pedestrian crossing. That's
not the source of the majority of our problem at that location. The parents for most of these kids are parking in the subdivision across the road from us, walking through the subdivision, and then coming out on this little, I don't know what you want to call it, alleyway or whatever, that runs right up to Water Spring Boulevard, right there by the entrance to the school. So then they would have to turn either right or left and walk 100 yards in either direction to get to a crosswalk.
Okay.
I want to say, I'm sorry, I want to say something else really quickly. This is Commissioner Nicole Wilson. Even if we have parents that are maybe not making the best choices, it doesn't absolve us of the need to make sure that we're providing the safest possible environment. And I want to apologize to the principal and to law enforcement who are out there dealing with what I feel like are some challenges that I've tried to bring up during the approval process on how quickly we've populated that area. And unfortunately, I've been voted down several times by my fellow commissioners, but I bring it up every single time that unless we're all on the same page about pacing this out in the right way, we are putting people at risk, because it's not just houses, right? There are humans that go in houses, and those humans have small humans, and those small humans have to go somewhere for school. So I just want you to know, I work very closely with everybody in Public Works and in traffic safety, and we're going to try to make sure we get to as many of these solutions as possible. And I know that, as the neighborhoods fill in, hopefully some of the patterns that make more sense will become habitual. But until then, we just need to be creative in the problem solving. So I support whatever you think is safest for those kids.
Well, I mean, another issue we're going to have, Commissioner, and is coming forward to DRC on Wednesday, is that these schools don't have any right turn lanes either. They are not proposing them. They don't want to. The school board does not want to put those right turn lanes into the elementary or the middle school, and then there will be more development coming from the other side, and there will be no decel lanes or anything. Then the situation is not going to be very favorable. That's all I'm saying. They stated that there's no need for them because a traffic study dictated that they're not warranted. Our experience and situation go to the school on Mailer Avenue in East Orange County, and you'll see the situation how it is in that for that school, and there are others experiencing the same. And I have brought that concern to the school board in several occasions, and the need for those diesel lanes, and they continue to well, right now, in the past, they have at least made some accommodations, even if it's a small, short deceleration lane that could fit in the area in question. But I mean, we can always revisit our, right there on Oliver's, where we have our 20-mile-an-hour school zone, that would have to be relocated. And those are signs and flashers and all of that. That's where the 20-mile-an-hour zone is. It's been implemented in conjunction, in coordination with the school. We can always take a look at that and see if relocation of that is required. I understand what the sheriff's office is stating. I know that the path of least resistance is the one that many people take, because that's human nature. But I mean, if Christina is our.
I was going to say, I think Christina, and if you're on here, if there's some ideas also, we will definitely, I'm supportive of whatever you think.
Take a look at the overall, but we don't only going to have these traffic issues coming from the east, but pretty soon we'll have them coming from the west.
Well, I just wanted to update everyone and to let you know that a crossing guard did warrant for Water Spring and Oliver Twist Way. So notifying the crossing guard coordinator to post the position, and just depending on her workload, how quickly she can post the crossing guard there. But I know that Mr. Diaz wanted to say something, so go ahead, Mr. Diaz.
Okay.
Hey guys, thank you for hosting this, first of all. Christina, I know you and I have emailed a little bit. I was emailing with the old principal, Mrs. Klaver. I've also included Sean, who is a assistant principal there. I'm currently representing in this meeting 23 individual households. I can send the names if that's important to you guys, but I have kind of a list of things, and the reality is we're not experts in the civil engineering matters at hand. So we don't know how things are really affected other than our personal experience here. I can tell you that if you zoom up on the map, kind of in the northwest direction, there's something here pretty substantial. So if you look in between the row of homes that are all connected, there is kind of like a larger gap before you get to the next home. That is a neighborhood common sidewalk. That common sidewalk connects a significant part of the neighborhood, and including Waterlay eventually, to that sidewalk right there. And so I think it's unreasonable to ask parents who are using a common sidewalk to then walk hundreds of yards to another crosswalk to then walk back to the school, when it just makes sense to cross the school. And that's what's happening. People are walking through the alley, which is on the southeast side of those homes, and they're walking on that common sidewalk on the northwest side of the homes. And yeah, they're going to take the path of least resistance, because that's a sidewalk that was intended for people to walk through. It doesn't make sense that people are having to walk so far in the opposite direction to cross over. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the sidewalk issue, in my opinion, doesn't just stretch from where the pedestrian area is, where the school leaves, all the way to Oliver Twist. It actually goes all the way to Storytelling Way. You're correct. People on average now don't park as much in the bus loop area because they get stuck there. So instead, they park on Storytelling Way, which is southeast of where you are. It's the next street after Oliver Twist. Yeah, so go a little further down, right there. So people are parking in droves on that road, making it really difficult for traffic. By the way, there's no 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in that area. So people, as soon as they pass the 20-mile-an-hour area, they zoom through there. And we have at many times had a car screech to a halt as we're trying to cross a crosswalk that's not pictured there, but there is a crosswalk now going from Storytelling Way across Water Spring Boulevard to the pool area, which my son and I have elected to do more often because that's a wider sidewalk, even though we have to cross back again to Oliver Twist back to the short sidewalk. So really the widening of the sidewalk to me goes all the way to Storytelling Way as opposed to just to Oliver Twist, especially because that sidewalk is used by the south side of the neighborhood. Everybody who lives on the south side of the neighborhood must go from Storytelling Way up down Water Spring Boulevard. So that's on here as well. As far as drop-off is not happening in the middle of the street as you were positioning, Joan. It is happening in the middle of the street, but what parents are doing is they're making a U-turn, coming back east down the road, and then dropping their kids off next to that sidewalk where I think we've positioned that there should be a crosswalk. And that's what's happening. And so it's reasonably safe, but what they're doing is stopping traffic. And then what's happening with the sidewalks as well is there's this large embankment to the north side of the sidewalk where there's all those trees. And if you look, that big patch of green is barely even there. It's walked on significantly. It's biked on. My child has even fallen off of the embankment onto Water Spring Boulevard to try to avoid people because there's not enough space from Storytelling Way all the way up to the school. And so that area there's barely any grass there. It's destroyed because people are using it as a sidewalk while the sidewalk isn't there. And so it's really dangerous. We talked about the school zone, that it's not far enough. I personally believe, I've lived all over Orlando. I don't understand why the school zone doesn't go all the way to Avalon, in my opinion. It doesn't make any sense. The traffic from the school goes all the way to Avalon.
Sorry to interrupt. The school zone is specifically installed just for the crossing. And we saw that.
But that's the thing, is they added a crosswalk. If you look at Storytelling Way on Water Spring Boulevard, it's not pictured here. But last year when we requested a crosswalk, that was their solution, was to add one there. So now there's a bunch of kids crossing there and there's no school zone in there.
There's a crosswalk here at Storytelling Way?
Yes, that was installed last year as a solution, as a potential solution to get people off of the skinny sidewalk to cross the street and then come back, which is not a great solution because it still brings you back to a skinny sidewalk anyway. And now you have kids crossing two sides instead of just one. So the school zone at least needs to be extended to that crosswalk, if not to Avalon.
Need to wind it all the way past the school, because otherwise.
And then as far
install that, because I don't remember our division installing that crosswalk. I'll look into it more.
We'll.
Okay. All right. Thank you for doing that. And then
We will definitely not.
Yeah, and then the only other thing that was brought up by one parent on this list was, I'm not a driver, so I can't say this, but from what I understand, drivers are backed up on Avalon for 30 to 45 minutes. I know that a lot of other schools in the county, what they'll do is they'll post a police officer there in the morning to stop traffic and let an entire string of cars out before stopping them to let normal traffic go through. So they were really adamant about trying to figure that out. There's no traffic light, there's no one stopping traffic. And because that road has been redone and merges from 2 lanes down to 1 lane directly in front of the entrance of the neighborhood, it's constantly congested and very difficult to get out and make a left or a right-hand turn off of that road, which is why parents are stuck in a line for 45 minutes. There's practically no way to get out of the neighborhood safely either. So anyway, those are the notes that I have. Thank you for listening, guys.
Okay, Frank, are we looking into no parking signs for Storytelling Way?
I thought we had them over there already.
There's already signs there?
I think so.
The
Well, we
last
could
I
look
went and
at-
checked, when you asked me to go check and take photos, there were none.
Yeah, I live off of Verse Alley, which dumps directly onto Storytelling Way, and there are no parking signs there at all. Nothing saying no parking.
Is that the way, the street that goes north and south? I don't know that.
Parking signs on Storytelling Way. Is that an issue to us?
Right there. Yeah, and I don't know if no parking signs need to be installed permanently. I've seen other areas where they have, during these times, there's no parking allowed here. So I don't know if that's a solution.
Yeah, that's one thing we're thinking about Oliver Twist is to do a, during school days, certain times.
Yeah.
So when there's no school, people can park there.
Right.
This is Storytelling down here.
Yeah, part of the issue in our neighborhood is that a lot of the parking is on actual designated driveways, because most of it is alleyways and you can't park in the alleyways. So I know that the residents use that area quite a bit for their own parking or guests. So I don't know if it should be totally off limits, but certainly during school hours on school days, it's a mess.
And we're thinking about one side being all the time and then the other side being time restricted.
I think that makes sense, because when cars are parked on both sides, no matter what time it is, it's hard to get through. So I think that makes sense.
Okay, we could talk to our technician that's already working on the additional signage for all over Twistway.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
My concern now is that we're addressing symptoms. The problem that we have is most of these parents that are parking along there are parking there to avoid the long line to the school, and we just keep moving them further and further away. We're not addressing the real issue. Where are we expecting these parents to go next after we shut down Storytelling Way and Oliver Twist? Because they're going to go somewhere, so we need to go ahead and anticipate where they're going to go, because that's going to change our pedestrian flow.
Wouldn't you imagine that if we can get parents out of the neighborhood faster, because really that's the significant wait time, is getting parents out of the neighborhood. So if we can get parents out of the neighborhood faster, there's a reasonable understanding, I think, that people would be willing to wait in a little bit of a longer line there, knowing that they're only waiting 5 to 10 minutes on the school line, but they're able to actually leave the neighborhood once they get out.
Yeah, Christina, I think you were on the call for Water Spring Middle School, 100% completion, when they were discussing the stoplight at Avalon and Water Spring Boulevard possibility. And there had been a recent study, but no one knew the date at that time of when that study was done. Do we know how recently the study was done there to see whether or not we are needing a light there?
I could get that information for you, but yes, it was recent. The thing is that the traffic is only during the school time, so that's why it didn't warrant. That's the only time we have traffic going on in that area.
But we are looking at that traffic signal. This will be part of the Village Eye County Road 545 improvements, and under the Village Eye study. Absolutely, this intersection is one of the critical intersections we're looking for traffic signal.
And they just posted a sign last week that it's 55 miles per hour now going past it, where I never saw a sign like that posted before, but they just posted it as they're finishing up the other extension north of it.
Okay.
Because that's a two-lane road. I can talk to Umberto Castillero to look at that again on the speed along, at least along the segment that is developed now with residential homes on both sides, from Water Springs Boulevard south to where Love Story Street is.
Yeah.
to the south, which eventually will connect to the 4-lane. Right now, it doesn't connect, but eventually it will. But we can take a look at that particular segment to see if we can lower the speed in that segment, because it's now developed on both sides. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to consider a school zone all the way out to the street? For instance, off of 435, south of Pockev Island Road, when I lived in that area, Gotha Middle School has an access road that a lot of students and parents use. They go all the way to the main road, and there is a crossing guard as well as a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit as you go past that intersection, which is south of Pockev Island and Wilkening Farm Road. It's very short. It's just as you're passing the intersection, but it's just making sure that people are slowing down as you go to the entrance of the school area.
I think
Well, like I was saying, I'm sorry. As far as school zones, we install them to cover the crossing. So it's certain guidelines that we have to follow with FDOT as far as how far we go out. It isn't to cover the whole frontage or in the neighborhood.
Got it. Okay, so because there's not a crossing out there is why we wouldn't consider extending out there. I understand.
Go ahead, Diana, did you want to say anything else?
That was fine. That you answer the question.
I mean, the only thing that I wanted to bring up is, so right now, currently, if a parent is dropping off a child or student, it's taking them 45 minutes to go through the whole parent loop. Have we timed that? Did we know
I have
if that's
not timed it, but I could try to figure out ways to time that.
Yeah.
I do know that our drop-off starts about quarter after, and we have solid traffic the entire time until about 9 o'clock. So we're 45 minutes at least just pouring kids in, getting kids in the school for 45 minutes. It's supposed to only be 30, but we just forgive tardies. We also start dismissing earlier too to relieve the traffic off of Avalon. So we're missing instructional period at the beginning of the day, about 15 minutes, and 15 minutes at the end of the day. So that's 30 minutes a day we've lost of instruction time because of traffic.
Okay, because ideally what we try to do is try to have all the parents go through the parent loop that are driving their students and not parking in the neighborhood, and then of course encouraging more students to walk and bike to school.
So if we added those additional cars that are currently parked in the neighborhood, that would increase the amount of time that our car loop is taking. We have currently 300 every day that go through the car loop because we do a system where we type in the names of everyone. And so every day I see there's 300-ish names typed in. So we're going to be getting a couple more hundred. That's going to almost double the time that car loop is. We're going to be over an hour each day, which was like when our beginning of the school year until parents figured out, oh, I can park here and walk. So adding more into the car loop just kind of adds more to the problem. We really do need that wider sidewalk now that I'm seeing it, because I mean, it's just, that's what they're going to keep doing, because it gets their kid to school on time and it makes it so their kid doesn't lose on any education.
I mean, the challenging part that you brought up is the school is overcrowded. I mean, that's really the biggest issue. I mean, we're talking about 1,200 kids, so, and we're trying to get all the parents in the parent loop. So, I mean, that's our concern as far as relocating the crossing, is that it's going to take it's basically adding more traffic because it's taking away some storage in the left lane. So that's our concern with relocating it. You know, I'm not sure if you want to speak for that, Diana, for us to just kind of continue looking into it, but
I mean,
I know that our PC engineer looked into it, and it's going to basically take 13 cars away from the left turn lane, is what she calculated.
It's not an easy fix. Let's put it that way. It's just not what we expected when this school was to open. I mean, we the conga line inside the school is very short as well. I always require 20% at least of the vehicles that are going to be entering the school to be able to be housed inside of the site. But look how short the conga line is, and in order to bring in the kids and drop them off. So you don't have any storage on campus either to assist us with the issue on the street. It's all spreading throughout the subdivisions and along Water Springs. And I don't know what to tell you. When the conga line inside the school was designed, was to accommodate X number of vehicles based on 850 students for this school, not based on 1,300. So obviously the internal operation is not helping move the cars either. So
Yeah.
is there a potential for a temporary location, a temporary connection internal to the school side, or something that can on a temporary basis help on site? You know, this is a school board site, so they would have to ask the engineer that did the traffic study and see if there's anything also that can be done on site. We don't have any jurisdiction on the on site, but we're willing to try to work something out from the off site if the school board's willing to look for, even if it's on a temporary basis, some solutions within their site. Because right now, I mean, the whole infrastructure is being overburdened. There's no capacity. It wasn't designed for this number of cars or this many students. So
moving this crosswalk. Oh, go ahead.
Let's.
Sorry, I just want to confirm there's double stacking and you're doing a zigzag all throughout the parking lot?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So what about temporarily relocating the sidewalk where the students are trying to come in? I mean, that's on site. I don't have any jurisdiction on site, on any school site. So, but I can see where there's some potential, you know, temporary fixes that may work, or may be able to assist in you know, at least spreading the students so that they're not funneled to one particular location, but they are sent to the locations where there's safe crossings.
There's no other safe crossings though. Right, I was going to say if without a crosswalk that leads across Water Spring Boulevard through that pedestrian walkway, you are funneling them all into one very tiny crosswalk with by the way, no boundary on the south side of the sidewalk. On the south side of the sidewalk is immediate fence, which I know is not your jurisdiction, but they're all funneled in that area. The crosswalk to me seems massively important, especially since the neighborhood is built in a way that naturally brings people to that side of the north side of the road.
But if OCPS facilities is able to relocate like the pedestrian entrance, then we could look into relocating the crossing.
I don't understand it. Say that again.
So we would have to work with OCPS facilities. Chris is still on the line, and they would have to relocate the pedestrian entrance because currently it's right here.
Yeah.
Say they would relocate it here or up north, and then we would look into relocating the crossing.
Okay. I got you.
but they would have to do work on the school property first.
Yes. I see another solution coming the year that Water Spring Middle School opens, if we could get creative and maybe have 2 car loops. We get some of our staff over at the middle school unloading kids at their car loop as well as our car loop and helping get kids on the sidewalks. But then again, we need a wider sidewalk. So we're going to need wider sidewalks, I think, regardless. And so the sidewalk that runs along the south side of Water Spring Boulevard on OCPS property, that is OCPS's sidewalk, and we would have to then figure out ways to get funded and get widened on our own. Is that what I need to do?
Yes, this one right here, yes, correct.
Okay.
Looks like Mr. Mills already took down the request.
Okay, I'll talk to Mr. Mills and see if he needs anything from me. Work from
Okay.
there. I would still encourage the crosswalk being moved further north. I feel like the lights in the school zone is going to end up being moved further north anyway, with the middle school coming on board in a year, because you're going to want to get that more further north and just have a consistent school speed zone. I don't think you'd have 2 school speed zones within that short amount of space, unless that's something they do traditionally.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the plans to see if the middle school is currently getting a school zone.
Okay, and then losing like 12 spaces in the left turn lane, all those 12 cars would shift to the right lane, and nobody can drive in that lane anyway, because that lane's blocked all the way down to Avalon anyway. So losing the left turn lane has no effect whatsoever on cars getting in and out.
Agreed. And as a matter of fact, cars will arrive as early as 7:45 in the morning to start lining up when the car line finally starts moving around 8:15. And by 8:15, the car line is pretty much all the way to Avalon.
How about opening the car line earlier?
We would have to have staff we'd have to have staff in order to watch the students.
Yeah, it's already opened at 8:15 with school starting at 9. That's 45 minutes before school starts.
This is a very
already.
special situation, what you have here. Sometimes you need to make some adjustments in your operations so that things, a combination of, but you're putting it all on Water Springs Boulevard, and there's not a lot that we can do because we cannot widen the road. Right now is in front of the school, it's basically 3 lanes, and you're asking me to bring it back to 2.
Yeah.
Because you're asking me to take the storage, which now helps house 13 more vehicles than what you were asking to put back, which will back up even further onto 545.
No, you're not losing any storage. The cars are just shifting to the right because nobody can move down that right lane. There's no traffic. It goes from the point where you come in at our marquee, and that whole entire lane all the way down to Avalon is full of cars, so nobody can drive up there.
Well, but at least it turns into 2 lanes westbound as soon as you go past the Oliver Twist. I mean, that adds capacity to the road. When you
There's 2 lanes?
No, it turns the turn lane and the through lane at capacity. Now, if I put a crossing where the sidewalk is, I have to stripe and I have to gore out all of that capacity that you have.
Why?
Right now. It's about a total of 13 to 14 vehicles that can be accommodated in that area. Now it all has to be gored out, and it's area that we have been using to store, at least to allow cars to line up. So
Yeah.
I mean, everything that we're saying here will have a ripple effect or a negative effect of some sort somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to analyze all of these concepts and see what could work. I think that the school board also needs to look at the site and see what, and we can brainstorm and see if there's any other solutions we can come up with to
Yeah, see, the
address.
issues that, like, from a outsider educator perspective, teacher contract protects a lot of things that happen in a school. So teachers union doesn't allow teachers to open their doors until 8:45 to welcome kids into a classroom. So if I start to pour more and more kids into my school, I don't have a space to put them because they're not going into classrooms. The students are sitting in hallways, sitting in the cafeteria, and it's just when you have 1,200, 1,300 students, it's not a practicality. So it's from an outsider perspective, that might not be something you think of, but it's a teacher's contract that they have uninterrupted planning time between 8 and 8:45, and I'm not allowed to touch that as an administrator to put kids in their classrooms.
I mean, it's.
Also,
That's
going
the
out,
thing.
like getting rid of that turn lane might actually be a safer option, because right now, what's happening with the opposite, you mentioned capacity, right? That opposite lane where people are not turning left is supposed to be a through lane. What's happening with that lane right now is that people are just parking there, which they're not supposed to park there, but they park there. And we're not just talking about regular cars. We're talking about contractor vehicles. I mean, all kinds of people park there because that lane can't be used anyway. So people are using it for parking, which to me is more unsafe anyway. It feels like it could be a blessing in disguise that we get rid of the turn lane to actually use that as a capacity lane, which ultimately means the capacity stays the same.
Do we know a timeline when Water Spring Boulevard is going to connect to Waterlea so I could shift my traffic to go into Waterlea versus going towards Avalon? And when we're kind of queuing up?
It is all developer driven.
Okay.
You have to ask the developer for the project. I don't have
Right.
a timeline. I cannot control the timeline on any of these, even connecting to the north, to the west, and then to the north. I don't have any. It's all developer driven.
Okay. I have Storybrooke developer, but I'll have to work on Waterlea to find out. Okay.
On Waterlea, I can give you the representative for
Okay.
Waterlea is D.R. Horton, and his name is Jim Cooper
Jim Cooper, D.R. Horn. Thank you.
with D.R. Horton. And he can probably at least put you in contact with their engineer in the phases that you have concerns, or at least that you want information on.
It was, I'm sorry, the last name Jim was, what was Jim's last name?
Cooper.
Cooper.
Cooper. Cooper.
Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like a lot of what we're talking about is going to need further analysis. Is there anything else that we wanted to bring up? I know, Adam, you haven't really got a chance to talk. Is there anything, school bus concerns or anything? Well, besides Oliver Twistway, which we already know about.
Yeah, so are we going to add no parking signs, or at least look into that for the opposite side of the street from where we already have them?
Yes, that's already in the works.
Okay. And I did happen to notice that there's a new sidewalk that's been completed between Waterlea and Water Spring Boulevard. I did notice that recently.
Oh, on Avalon there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of complete it and then they tear it up again. So I want them to complete it and leave it so that we can use it eventually. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. It looked good. The whole thing.
Yes.
I don't really have anything else to add unless anybody has any questions for me.
No, I thank you all for making time to talk about safety of our kids and try to make sure everyone is safe coming and leaving our campus. It's nice to share the different perspectives because we don't understand how certain things work and how one thing affects another. So being able to work together is good.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you so much for your time on this, everybody. It really is, we're just going to have to be creative and keep working at it to make sure everyone's safe. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Thank you,
See you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.